Good morning, everyone. It is a chilly morning this morning. -2 degrees as we get ready to look back while looking forward. Whew! You can hear from the heater in the background that it was blowing hot. This is episode number 100 of the All Around Growth podcast, everyone. My name is Rob Kaiser, and we are almost snowed in on this 17th of February, 2021. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. The All Around Growth podcast is a show where we are focused on building the lives of our dreams. And like I said, today is Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. The topic of today's show is looking back while looking forward. And like I said, it is -2 degrees after the big snowstorm where many parts of the country are out of power and trying to hang in there and survive the big wintry event that many people are just not accustomed to dealing with. Anyways, I've got a wood stove burning and I am trudging back to the day job because I can only do so much remotely. But we'll talk more on that later. We talked a bit about that yesterday. Now, recently, we've been doing shows on topics such as finance, physical things, personal development, family, spiritual, social, and career. And we've been covering those 7 categories because I am actively building the life of my dreams through consistent goal setting, utilizing those 7 categories. Now, I initially created those 7 categories in my project and task management software. I later realized that Zig Ziglar also utilizes 7 categories for goal setting. And then finally I settled on Dan Miller's 7 categories, which were the 7 that I just outlined and are also listed in the show notes. Now, Dan Miller is a mentor, a leader, someone that I've been following for quite some time. And I have gone so far as to get myself involved in his 48 Days Eagles community. And in that community, I had written something to which he responded, which was very nice. And what he asked me in that writing was, what are you doing right now that generates income, building up to that 12 months of expenses? And that's 12 months of living expenses that I'm hoping to have in an emergency fund. Question 2, are you living off the land right now? And question number 3, what is your vision for using permaculture as a plan for where you want to be 3 years from now? Now, recently, and really since he asked those questions have been on my mind, occupying a great part of it, to be honest with you. And we'll touch on those today a bit. But before we do, let's take a look back into episode 1 of the All Around Growth podcast. Now, for those of you who haven't listened to this episode, it's linked in the show notes. But this podcast, the very first episode of the podcast as you know it now, was recorded on September 30th, 2020. And that initial episode lasted less than 5 minutes. And at that time, I outlined my beliefs for what the podcast was, what it was in my mind at that time, and what I had hoped it would be. Now, I also mentioned that I believed our connectivity there and here is significant. And it's significant because there are over 1 million shows, okay? There's over 1 million podcasts and 30 million episodes. And all of this has been recorded in over 100 different languages. So, at that time, I asked you, the listener, why are we here? What drew us to the podcast? And I proposed that maybe you were looking for something that you had yet to find. Maybe you were experiencing a significant transition in life. Maybe you were unhappy with your day job, or maybe you got laid off recently. Maybe you were trying to improve or grow certain relationships in your life. Maybe you were interested in volunteering in your community, trying to be a part of something bigger than yourself. Maybe you've got some underlying health issues or just something going on in your life that prevented you from doing what it is that you wanted to do. And most likely there's a combination of any or all of those reasons that are bringing you to this show. The bottom line is that both you and I are interested in personal growth and development. We're both interested in all-around growth. And that's what this show is all about. All-around growth. Basically, the purpose of this show is to share my own personal experiences with all-around growth. To share life, business, and spiritual growth through the lens and perspective of me, your host, Rob Kaiser. Now, at that time, in September of 2020, I had come to describe myself as a systems-oriented thinker, a writer, a horticulturalist, and a dreamer, as well as an epilepsy warrior, and now, or at that time, I guess, a podcaster. And all of that is accurate. And based on life experiences to date, I'd gone through a lot of transition, and there'd always been some constants in life. And the constants in my life were epilepsy, a career and many life experiences in the green industry, specifically horticulture, and the fact that I'd earned most of my money in life through working with plants. And also, last but not least, having a supportive network of family and friends along the way. And really, that's what the show was about when we heard that in episode number 1, finding a strong and supportive network as we navigate all of these uncharted waters in life. Now, you may not be like me in the fact that you may not have had the type of supportive network that I had, and that's all right. And that's why you're here, and that's why we're here, to be exactly that for one another with this show. Not everybody's got the tools and resources available to us, or that are available to us. So we make a point to share with others who are lacking. We are the community that we've all been seeking. And I tried to reiterate that we don't have to go it alone, and that podcasts over the past 10 years had been an integral part of my life. And that my primary objective with the podcast was to freely give back what was so freely given to me. And I hope that's what I've been able to do with this podcast over the past 100 episodes. Or over the past 99 episodes, because this is the 100th episode. Technically, this is episode 101 because I did a bonus episode way back when in number 5, episode number 5 that is, when I was trying to figure out what I was doing with this show. But in the past 98 episodes, we've covered topics such as empathy, vulnerability, passion and purpose, spirituality, the morning and evening rituals and why that's important, physical wellness, financial peace, diet and health, ignorance, technology, barefoot living, substance abuse and addiction, gratitude, chronic medical conditions, boundaries, goals, kombucha, dog training, prioritization, journaling, the strangest secret in the world, intermittent fasting, back pain, yoga, volunteer work, cold showers, and productivity. I mean, we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot over the past 98, 99, or 100 episodes, whatever the case may be. And I've linked to everything that I've just mentioned along with all of the other episodes in the show notes. So here we are, 100 episodes. We got a lot of content. So what? So what does that mean to you? What does it mean to me? And what am I doing with all of this? And what are you doing with all of this? It's great to have all of this content, but for what? So what am I doing with all of this? Well, like I mentioned, the purpose of this podcast is to share personal experiences of my own all-around growth. Like I said, life, business, and spiritual growth through the lens and perspective of your host, Rob Kaiser. And I had previously come to describe myself as a systems-oriented thinker, a writer, a horticulturalist, and a dreamer, and an epilepsy warrior, and now a podcaster. Well, I don't think much has changed there, and the constants in my life have really remained the same over the past few months. And that's really about it, you know, just sharing my experience, my strength, my hope. Because that's what others did with me. That's what others did for me in the form of podcasts. And that's what I'm hoping to do with this. Now, in the beginning of the episode, I talked briefly about some questions that Dan Miller had posed to me, specifically 3 questions that he asked me in the 48 Days community after sharing a bit of my story that I had written and shared on Permies.com and then shared it or cross-posted it in the 48 Days community. And he said, what are you doing right now that generates income building up to that 12 months of expenses, which is my savings goal? Right now, like literally right now, I'm driving into work to go to my day job and earn that money, which is going to contribute to those 12 months of expenses. Am I living off the land? Hell no. I don't even know how. It's a daunting task to be a homesteader when you have no idea what the hell you're doing. I'm just a dumb suburban kid. Born and raised in the suburbs. Born and raised from a suburban father. We have no idea what we're doing. And finally, the question of all questions, what is your vision for using permaculture as a plan for where you want to be 3 years from now? And to that question, I didn't have an answer. Let me read that question again for you so we can all be on the same page here. What is your vision for using permaculture as a plan for where you want to be 3 years from now? I don't know about you, but there hasn't been a whole lot of time in life where I've projected out 3 years. A lot of times it's been hard for me to stay on point with where I'm at today. Sometimes life feels overwhelming. Sometimes it's hard to pay the bills. Sometimes it's hard to get out of bed. But we do it because it's all we know how to do. So my plan, my vision for using permaculture to get to where I want to be 3 years from now, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. However, part of what we're doing on this show is taking the few ideas that we have, refining them, forging them, making them something more than what they are now. We're taking those ideas, and not only are we refining and forging them, but we're putting together a plan so that we can begin to execute and truly live the life of our dreams. We know how. We've got some snapshots into that life, but we have to execute. We begin by doing that every day, every morning, when we sit down, journal, write out our goals for the day. We set the path for the day, the week, the month, the year. It starts every morning in that golden hour. All right. Well, guys, that's it. Episode number 100 is in the books. I wish that it was a little bit more exciting than what I had to offer. But this show, much like me, is a work in progress. And don't ever be ashamed to admit that, you're a work in progress too. So if you like the show and you like what we're doing here, just subscribe to it, share it. I've been posting some links in the show notes that say click here to rate and review the podcast, and hell, I don't know if those links even work. So I'm going to change that, but the link to rate and review the podcast takes you to Apple Podcasts, and that's where we get the most views from now, or the most listens and downloads. So if you like the show, go there, leave a rating and review. And if you don't, just leave a rating or a review on whatever podcast player you use. It's helpful. It helps affect the algorithms. And as long as this podcast is a thing, your help in moving forward the metrics is absolutely helpful. So all links to everything discussed are in the show notes. If you have a question or any feedback for me, go ahead and join the Telegram group at t.me/allaroundgrowth on your browser. And if you've got the Telegram Messenger app on your phone, just search for us at All Around Growth. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.